Good morning, it's Philip, and I am doing a project here. I'm actually practicing for a residential wiring exam that I have so this is my first exam of this class, and we have to do a whole circuit, actually 2 circuits. We have to wire them up as part of the exam. So let's dive right in. There are 2 circuits here. There is a lighting circuit. These 2 boxes are going to have switches in them, and the power is fed via a 14-2 wire from a 15 amp breaker. You can see the 14-2 wire here and the 14-2 wire here. And 14-2, well, this is the easiest way to look at it here. There are 2 conductors. One is white, neutral, one is black, hot, and then there is a ground. So 14 gauge wire with 2 conductors. But then connecting the 2 boxes, we have a different wire. We have a 14-3 wire. And this 14-3 wire has 3 conductors. So it has the neutral, which is white. It has the black, which is hot, and another hot, which is red. And then of course, the ground as well. The reason why we have this 14-3 wire connecting these two boxes is because we're going to use a 3-way switch, which is different than just a standard switch that turns the light on and off from one location. These switches allow this light to be turned on and off from 2 different locations, and actually you could have a whole bunch of different other locations if you install a bunch of 4-way switches in between these 2 3-ways. So we're going to wire that diagram up, or this circuit up. I've already wired this switch, and the incoming hot, the black gets wired to what's called the common. So why don't we go ahead and do that over here. I've already stripped some wire. So I'm going to look at this switch, and I'm going to wire this hot wire up to the common. Actually, before I do that, let me do something else. Let me take care of these other wires that are in here, because there's some that we need and some that we don't. So let's deal with the ground wires first. The ground has to be connected to this switch via this green screw down here. But we've also got to twist these 2 together so that the ground continues. So how are we going to get something to be able to apply to the switch? Well, there's a couple different ways to do it. There's a green wire nut that has a hole in it that goes down on there, but I'm going to do what my instructor taught me, and that is to attach what's called a pigtail. So we got a pigtail, and this is just a piece of 14-2 wire that I happen to have lying around. And so I'm going to put that in there. I said 14 gauge wire, and I'm going to twist these together using my linesman's pliers. There are 3 tools involved in doing this work. I'm not very good at this twisting stuff, by the way. A lot of practice needed here. There are 3 tools that we're working with, principally here. There's the linesman's pliers, which are insulated. Then we're going to snip a little bit off the edge here so that we have a nice clean cut, all right? We have linesman's pliers right there. We have some wire strippers, and then we have a Phillips head screwdriver. Also, all 3 of these are insulated, which is good when you're working around electricity. I'm going to use a beige wire nut. The color doesn't matter. Green, I guess, is normal for grounds. I'm going to use a beige. That's what I have. And I'm going to attach it there. Get it nice and tight. And then I'm going to shove that in the back of the box with this pigtail sticking out. All right? Pigtail's too long, so we're going to chop it off a little bit. Very good. All right, now this pigtail is the ground, so it's going to be connected to our switch. The grounding, I'm going to cut off some more actually. So I'm going to twist this, I'm going to put a little loop on it, and I'm going to attach this to the switch. And the way it works is, working from the back, of course, you install it what's called clockwise, meaning that the tip of that wire, and I like to tighten it up like that, the tip of that wire is always in the direction of where you're turning the screw. So if you're turning to the right, clockwise, the tip of it is the direction in which you're turning. We got that nice and tight, so our switch is now officially grounded. Now, we've got to do something with these neutral wires. These neutral wires are not going to be connected in any way to this switch. The neutral wire is going to be connected up here to the fixture, but it's not going to be connected to the switch. Now, what we did with the neutral wires in this box is we just tied them together with a wire nut, and then we just shoved them in the box just like we did the ground. So we're going to do that here as well. We're going to take these two neutral wires. We're going to use our linesman's pliers, and we're going to twist them a little bit. Probably should just use a wire nut on this so that we don't waste a lot of time on this video. But I'm going to do this right because I know that I'll be graded on it. We're going to snip the tip of it. We've got one of our beige, no, we'll use a red one in this case just to distinguish. This is a white neutral wire, and we're going to attach it, if we can, if it'll work, to these two neutral wires, and we're going to put those in the back of the box and be done with them as well. So what that leaves us is one black that runs to here, and a black and a red that run to here. Now there is a screw on the three-way switch called the common. It is a black screw, generally. I don't know if it's always a black screw, but it's a black screw. And then there are two bronze screws that are directly opposite each other, which if you look at the switch, that's what cuts the connection between these two, right? But we need a way for power to make it all the way from here to here, and that is accomplished by means of the black wire that is going to be attached to the common. So I've already put a loop in it, so we're going to attach this hot wire that leads to the light fixture. We're going to attach it to the common screw, the black screw. And that's what we did exactly like that on this side. The black wire coming from the panel was attached to the common screw. All right, we got a good tight connection there. So that leaves us a red and a black, and we are left with a bronze screw on this side and a bronze screw on that side. Absolutely identical to what this was over here. So obviously, should be obvious to everyone by now, that we're going to attach these two wires to those two screws, right? Now, you might be asking yourself, well, which goes on which side? Is it left, right? You know what? I have been informed by very good authority that it doesn't matter. So you just do whatever your heart's desire. Put the red on one side, and you put the black on the other side. Now these are the ones, remember, this black and this red that are going on these two bronze screws are coming from this three-way wire. And that makes sense because you know there's a red in there, so that the other one doesn't have a red, the 14-2 wire. So obviously you know that, but just keep that straight. And then you put your black over here. We put our red on the other side. And we're going to tighten that down. All right. So our three-way switch is completely wired up. Ground to the green screw, black to the fixture on the common, and red and black from the 14-3 wire to this. These are called travelers. I don't know what that name means exactly, but the wires that are running along this blue wire are apparently called travelers. So, all right, and I usually like to turn it around so that the ground screws at the bottom. Doesn't really matter how you do it, I guess, because this is a three-way switch, so it can be up or down. Then you put it in the box, and all you have left to do now is to take your light fixture. Oh, let me address this ground. So we got a ground hanging out here. It doesn't do anything. Where's it going to go? Well, your plastic light fixture is not going to have a ground screw because it's an ungrounded fixture. So you take one of these ground screws or ground nuts and just put it on the edge of that just to show that you didn't forget about that wire. and shove it down there in the hole, and you're done with the grounding. Now, I don't have a light fixture with me, but a little plastic light fixture we're using for this class, it only has a place to put a white and a black, and I don't think it matters either side. And so that is very easy to wire up, and I won't bore you with that. So now we have our completed circuit. 15 amp power coming in, 15 amp current coming in to our switch, to the common on the switch. The two travelers run down this blue wire, connect to the two bronze screws on this switch. The common then runs up to here, and the neutrals are bonded together with a wire nut, and they're tucked away, and we don't need them. All right, so that completes our lighting circuit on 14 gauge wire. Now, we're gonna do a receptacle circuit on heavier wire, which is 12 gauge wire, and this is called a 12-2, and it's going to be put on a 20 ampere breaker. There's going to be actually 2 receptacles, really 4, because these are called duplex, so it's 2 plus 2. And it's going to be ground fault circuit interrupter protected. The first device is going to protect this whole circuit. So you can see you have this GFCI device, which is somewhat expensive, and you got this basic duplex receptacle, which is rather cheap. And so if you start with this one at the front of the line, you can actually attach several down the line. This is what you see typically in a kitchen, where you have one GFCI and then you have other GFCI protected regular receptacles down the line. So it saves money, I guess. Theoretically, you could put this in every box, but that would run you, $20 each of those and $3 each of those. So anyway, that's the purpose of it. All right. So we've got 2 conductors coming into this box from the panel, heavier gauge. These are tough, harder to work with. And then you have the ground, and you'll notice I've already tied these grounds together. I did the same thing that I did here with that pigtail. So I just found a piece of wire that I had left over that is 12 gauge. It's got to be the same gauge as the conductors in this cable. So 12 gauge. And I did a little pigtail on it just so I can ground my device, so I can ground this. And I am going to wire nut this together with a beige nut. And we're going to tuck it in the box, and then we will be able to use it to ground our device. All right, so that goes in there. Now we got this ground wire available. Now this GFCI, as I mentioned, this cable is a lot harder to work with. This wire is a lot harder to work with. It's thicker, and it doesn't bend as well. So thankfully, there's some handy little plates in this GFCI device, and you see where you can just slide the wire behind it and tighten it down, and it serves the same purpose as if you wrapped it around. And the ground screw apparently is exactly the same. So I'm going to give myself a little space here, loosen up the ground screw, and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to shove it in there, and then I'm going to tighten it back up. I don't know if the video can see this well. I'm going to tighten that up. And now this device is grounded, right? I want to make sure I got my orientation right. Apparently the smiley face is the way to do it. So you got your ground pin in the bottom. You got your neutral and your hot up here. Kind of looks like 2 eyes and a mouth. So a little smiley face there. All right. So now I have to work with different wires and have to figure out where to put them on this device. I got 2 conductors, black and white, coming in from the panel, and I got 2 black and white conductors going out to the second box. If I look at the back of this device, I'm going to see some words. I'm going to see the word line, and these 2 screws are the line, and then I'm going to see the word load, and these 2 screws are the load. Line is incoming power from the panel. Load is outgoing power to the next box. You don't have to have a load side active on a GFCI device. You could just attach these 2 wires and be done with it. And this is GFCI protected. But if you want to protect something down the line, you've got to use the load side and you've got to connect it down further, all right? So we're going to look, now we have the words line and load. We also have the words white and hot. So it tells us what side it's supposed to go on. So this is the white line side. So I'm going to do white line using this same method of stabbing it in there. And then I'm going to tighten it down. Tighten it down. That is the line white. And now we have a line hot as well. So I'm going to loosen this up a little. It gets too tight there. And I'm going to take this wire, I'm getting a little tangled up here. I'm going to take this wire and this is coming from the panel again. I'm going to shove it into the line hot side. Line hot, meaning line black in this case. All right. Okay, so my line is connected. If this was wired to the panel, I would have a fully active GFCI receptacle right now. But I do want to add this other one. So I'm going to look at the load side now, and I'm going to look for load white. And when I find load white, of course it's going to be on the same side as that white, that makes sense. I'm going to, getting a little sideways here on these wires. I'm going to shove that into the load white side. And I'm going to tighten it down. Now I'm going to take the load black side, or the load hot side, and I'm going to shove it into there. There's two different sides you can shove it in. I don't think it matters which side you use. There's two little apertures there on either side of the screw, and you can use, the left or the right. I don't think it matters. All right, so test our connections. Okay, man, these wires are hard to deal with. So we're done with that one. We're going to shove it in the box, and it's ready to go. Now we have our second receptacle, which is going to be protected by the first one. And we need to strip some wire out from each one. That was a lot, too much stripping there. And so we're going to put a loop. Now this, I don't think that this, yeah, this got these little stab things in it, but we're not going to, that's for 14 wire. We're using 12 wire. So we're going to have to just work with this heavy wire, and hopefully we can maneuver it, and it won't test our patience. It might. Some of these things test your patience. All right. So we need a ground. We know that. So we're going to put a little ground in there. This is on this 12 wire. I'm going to tighten that up a little. Sorry, you probably can't see this, but I'm going to tighten up a little bit there. All right. So this is a ground. Now we want to orient this as well, smiley face, right? So now, which wire goes on which side? Well, there's a bronze screw and there is a silver screw. Bronze is hot. Which side is hot? Well, hot is the black side. So we're going to put hot on that. We're going to put black on the bronze screw. And we're going to put white on the silver screw, which is the neutral side. Now remember, we didn't need neutrals on the lighting circuit in this particular case because it was a three-way circuit. I'm going to try to get that where you can see. We do need neutrals on a GFCI, actually on a receptacle, and specifically on a GFCI, because I don't believe the GFCI will even work if it doesn't have a neutral. All right, so we are fully wired here. Load side feeds this, and this is ready to go. And now we have a full circuit. And if I can do this in my test within 2.5 hours, and that involves string and wire and everything else, I might make 100. We shall see. But pray for me. Thank you.